This is Tim Jackson, and I'm very happy to introduce my guest here today, Michael McDermott, who has, a slew of albums going back to around 90, 91. So you've been in this business for a while, but your new album is called What in the World, which released just back in June 5th, I believe. But Michael, thanks for joining me.
Tim, it's an honor to be here with you. And as I said before we started, thanks for doing this, creating this kind of platform.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure, and my pleasure to talk to you. And I've been listening to your album quite a bit in recent weeks, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And we really want to unpack the song "What in the World," which is the title track, first song. But the album itself was 12 songs. I guess technically 11 songs. What in the World? There's two versions of it. There's the acoustic demo and then the regular version that kicks off the album. But just tell me briefly a little bit about recording that. Kind of who were the players and also how weird has it been to release an album in June and then sit at home and just say that. Because I know you've done a lot of touring over the years.
Yeah, so I recorded it here in my home studio, and then I usually work with this guy Lex Price in Nashville, Will Kimbrough, who's from Alabama,
right,
and John Dederick, and then I have my band here in Chicago: Stephen Gillis, Grant Tye, Matt Thompson. So I used a bunch of players, and we did most of it remotely. We did record "What in the World" together with the band here in Chicago, and the rest of the stuff was done just remotely, how I've been kind of doing it the last few records with Lex and Will. And that's kind of how we do things.
Yeah.
So getting to play with him through Lex Price, he was the one who finally connected us. And it was, I just love what he does. Everything he plays is what I wish I could do myself.
Right. I understand that. And then before I get into the song, What in the World, a little bit more, I have to ask you about your Stephen King connection. So I know that he has quoted your lyrics in a couple of books, and I'm pretty sure that he did liner notes for you in an album Once Upon a Time. So how did the Michael McDermott, Stephen King connection get started?
It's still, as a storyteller, you tell stories sometimes so often you start thinking they didn't really happen, that you made it up. So I'll tell it again, but I know this happened. So I was playing basketball at my sister's house one day, and I take my basketball, being from Chicago, very seriously. So we were in the middle of a game, and my sister opened the window and yelled out that I had a phone call, which I couldn't believe she would interrupt me during such a thing. I was like, I'm playing. I got the game going. And she said, it's Stephen King. And I said, a writer? And she's like, I was like, Stephen King. So I went in. I was like, hold on, I'll be right back. And I go in, and it was him on the phone. And he was just like, Michael, it's Stephen King. And he said, I'm a big fan, and I'm coming to Chicago. You want to go to the Cubs game next weekend? And I said, joking, like, you sure you're not looking for Michael McDonald's? And so he said, no. He said, didn't your publisher tell you? And I said, tell me what? And he said, I bought the rights to your lyrics of the song Lantern. And I said, man, nobody told me anything. I owed them so much money that whatever he paid went to paying them back. I never saw a dime from it. So I said, no, I don't know anything about this. And so he said, yeah, you're in my new book. And anyway, he was coming to town, and I had, 4 days to read a 900-page book. So I got to work quickly, and it was funny, it was just going through it and staying up. I had maybe 3 days to read it. So it was a challenge. And so we get to Wrigley, and we sit down, and I said, well, listen, man, I love the book. And I had all these things I wanted to say about it. And he's like, yeah, fuck that. So who are you listening to? And I was like, wait, that was it? I could have never cracked the spine, the cover. And so anyway, so that was it. And we became friends, and he's a great guy and just really amazing, sees the world in a very unique way. And now he's kind of has this whole third act where he's like this political Twitter guy, it's very thing to see, and it's great.
Yeah, I follow him on Twitter, and he's definitely a fascinating person to watch, to be sure. All right, let's circle back to What in the World, the song off of the album of the same name. And obviously there's going to be the Bob Dylan connections,
Yes.
both in the song and of course the video, which I'll link to. And hope everybody takes a look at the video, which is very compelling and obviously has that sort of subterranean homesick blues nod to it with the cards and the writing on it. But just tell me a little bit about writing the song. And what's interesting is obviously the album came out June 5th. I first saw the video in May. So obviously it had been written a while back, and you've got that refrain that you repeat a few times about dark days coming for the USA. And I was like, how did he foresee? Were there other dark days, or did you see 2020 and the COVID-19 and the craziness that we've had in recent months? So just tell me a little bit about writing the song and kind of your mindset in writing that. How long ago was it when you actually wrote that song?
Well, I don't remember when I first started it, but I remember, the Cubs won the World Series in 2016, October 31st or whatever day it was.
Yeah.
And it was like just 3 days later, I watched Trump win the election of that. And it wasn't right after that. It was not intentional to sit down and write anything. But as I saw like kind of the deconstruction of an organized society start happening and fracturing, and that had been happening for a while, no doubt. So it was simple. So when I write, it was just, morning, no one in the house is awake, and I'm just writing at my computer. And so it was a lot of stream of consciousness stuff, which I tend to do a lot of anyway. And the nod to Dylan wasn't even intentional in my head. I was just writing. Mm-hmm. So when it came, then I didn't have really a chorus for it. I didn't know, like, well, there were all these great verses about these cataclysmic things.
Right.
But so what? Like, what do you, yeah, everybody knows. So what do you do? So I just had these verses for a while, and things would change, and I'd massage lyrics, and something else would happen. Kids in Cages. Okay, that came later, and so it was just kind of the more I saw, the more I just kind of tinker with it. And then at some point, I don't like despondent music. I think music should be, if anything, uplifting, spiritual, and heartening, not disheartening. But I stumbled on this chorus. I think I was in a cab, and I was just muttering to myself like a crazy man in the back seat, and I just thought, well, geez, I don't want it to be dark days come for the USA. What kind of message is that? But it was the only, and I tried to change it. I said, bright days come. I changed it, and I thought, that's all bullshit.
Right.
It's a lie. And so I couldn't sing that. So I just went with it because it felt right, and it felt organic. And that was, so things were just moderately bad, really, when I wrote that. Maybe late 2017, early 2018, so that's kind of when I started, I think, playing it live. But as soon as I played it, and I've been a songwriter for 30 years, and I don't say this often, but there are certain songs you have that just immediately, something's different. People respond, whether you're in a club in Sweden or in Austin or Chicago, you feel like, oh, that's different. And so anyway, so I thought it resonated, even though it's kind of a despondent anthem. It seemed to connect, and then but by the time it came out, then it was a whole new level of darkness, So it was really it was ahead of the curve, I guess, and sadly it was. And I'll be glad not to sing that song one day. I really will. If there can be real change, and that's the thing. You had mentioned before, I think we went live or recording, you said something about before the world was in flames or whatever.
Right.
And I was thinking, the world is in, and I've been in plenty of therapy. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and I've been in enough therapy and recovery to know that it is in flames, and because it's inflamed, everyone's inflamed. And so how when you hurt your leg or whatever, you get a cut, and then you brush it on the couch, and you go, oh God, because it's inflamed. So everyone's so sensitive, like everyone's so heightened that the nerve endings are tingling. So that's why there's this kind of outrage, this even sometimes justified outrage and sometimes unjustified outrage, because everyone's so inflamed. We're in a state of mental illness. as a society, as a global illness, really. And that's why everything is just so heightened and so, and it's a scary thing. And I know that from my own addiction, how you are, how the pathology of that behavior, and it's dangerous. As a drug addict and someone who has had mental illness, our president really, and I see all the signs of an addictive personality. I mean, we're all kind of on the spectrum of addiction at some level, you know, whether it's food or porn or sport team or whatever it is, you know. And so he's definitely a man in a state of addiction. And whether his hit is those rallies, it's the narcissism. It's a predatory feeding thing I see that I used to have, you know, and I know it very well. So I see that in his eyes, and if he wasn't so dangerous, I'd feel sorry for him, because he is a man. And there's this great addiction specialist named Gabor Mate, and he mentioned how most world leaders, really, you can follow their lineage back to childhood trauma. And Trump was traumatized. He was a very unloved kid, verbally abused, he was emotionally abused by his father, he was unloved by his mother, and you can see that that's manifest now. And I do feel sorry for him at times, and I hate this, and I get shit for that. But I feel I have empathy for, like, he's a broken soul, and when you're raised thinking you're no good, that get them before they get you, they're going to take everything from you, you're a lose, you know, like, how else do that manifests itself later in life, and that's how we have a society.
So, kind of, what is your prescription, I guess, to get out of where we are and for everything to be okay? I mean, what has to happen for us to get back there? Because it seems such a big task right now.
It is, and that's true, because, you know, and I thought even like this administration unwittingly will make things better. Things will get so bad that they're going to have to be real change unwittingly.
Right.
You know, but it might, and I'm naive that way. That I hope it will. But, you know, there's this old theory, like, you know, be the change. You know, there's this thing, but the only flaw with that is that it makes it more as a society, we're all individuals. We have the selfies, we have our accounts, we have all this. It's all individualized. We're not, you know, we used to be hunter-gatherers. We used to be small communities, right, roving tribes or whatever. But now we're not. We're all just a bunch of individuals. And I think that's gotten us in a lot of trouble. And I think that so be the change. Yes, I think you could better yourself. If anything, be a better person of your community, really. And that's what, because I am my default, Tim, is isolation. I go in and that's just, I've always been that way since I was a kid. You can see it in the home movies. Who's that little weird kid not saying anything in the corner like this? You know, I was that, you know, that kid. And so that's my thing, but I'm trying to become a better person. So that's what we got to get back to, a sense of community. And, you know, I went to one of these Black Lives Matter protests, and I went, and man, I was just there, and like I was tearing up, because you know what it was, and I'm not diminishing why I was there, but it was just the sense of the power of a community. Mm-hmm. It was so intense to me. I was just overwhelmed with emotion over and over again. And it was just because it was the vibrations of a synergistic vibration. And I don't feel that very often. I live with my wife and my daughter, and that's kind of, I mean, in the last 100 days, that's all I've seen. Right. But it was amazing. And that's a drug too. You know, we're all just chemical machines, and whatever lights us up is what so I liked that. And I want to do more of it. I want to be more a part of that.
So what you actually participated in was this collectivism, where people are getting together sort of for the greater good. In our society right now, we're seeing with COVID-19 continuing to grow, in large part because of the individualistic mindset of our society, that I do what I want, no one can tell me what to do. I mean, kind of, what are your thoughts on sort of what you just said, sort of, here's the collective and how good that makes you feel to be part of that, versus this battle against the individualistic tendencies of our society?
Yeah, the idea of collective, you know, getting kids to go out and play, go outside, you know, like, and I hate to sound impossibly old right now, but like, yeah, go out and play, like, to do what? Just be. we don't know how to be anymore. It's always do this, don't do that. You know, that's all we're told our whole lives. Do something with your life. You know, but you don't have to do something with your life. Be something. Yeah. Just be. You know. And so, I mean, I do a lot of the meditation stuff and my early morning writings, and that's where this song came from, was just kind of just letting it, you know, there's a certain rhythm. I hate to sound like a new age guy going back to that again, but there's a rhythm to life, and it's just finding it and finding that footing.
Right. Well, and let me ask you about another song that's on the album, and it's, you know, certainly a very different mindset, I think, than What in the World is. And this song, actually, I mean, I love What in the World for what it is and all that's in there, and it's a lot to absorb. But this one might be my favorite, which is the song No Matter What. And it's, you know, I mean, it's sort of this grasping at hope, right? So don't give up no matter what. Don't give up no matter what. You repeat that several times. You're worth it, you say. So just tell me a little bit about sort of the mindset in writing that song in the same album in which you're writing What in the World, which, as we mentioned, is talking about the world.
Yeah. So June, 1 year ago, June 1st and June 3rd, my niece and my nephew both killed themselves 2 days apart from each other. And it was so traumatic, you know, that my brother lost his children in the span of 2 days, both from, you know, suicide, gun. And Ryan, who I kind of mentioned in Blue Eyed Barmaid, he was a soldier, 2 tours, PTSD. And Aaron was afflicted with a drug addiction, much like me. We had a lot in common on that. That song kind of came from that, because for a long time, I didn't want to live. And I tried my best to kill myself. And, you know, I couldn't even do that right. So when the suicides happened in the course of 2 days, it was just something I wish I would have told them that. And Aaron, you know, I had been involved in a lot of her attempts at recovery, and you know, and she called me an hour before she killed herself. So that was just something I wish I would have said to him, you know. So it was hard, because you know, you feel that because there is always hope, and I know that more than anybody that it can get better. Yeah, and you know, going back to it, you know, and I hinted at meditation before, but you know, there's like mantra meditation, but you know, we are so just chemically driven that, you know, there's a thing that, I don't know if you can hear, but you know, there's a thing that if you put a pencil in your mouth for 2 minutes and smile, you'll actually feel better. This is the truth. This is scientific. Isn't that weird? You can fake, you know, they say fake it till you make it. There you go. Good. Hey,
All right.
2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes.
All
you
right.
will.
All right.
For real. I know it sounds crazy, but your brain's starting to think you're smiling. It will, and your endorphins will spike. Your endorphins go up, which is like eating chocolate or love or sex or whatever. So it's an endorphin spike, and it's a 2 minute thing. There's also these things called power positions too. That, you know, this I don't know if she's a doctor, but she talked about going. You know, when you go into an interview, she looks out in the waiting room and she sees all these people, very small, kind of like with their phone like this. You know, and that's not, we're animals, you know, that you should be sitting back, you know, in a position of power, and because that your testosterone goes up and your cortisol goes down. Cortisol, which is being your anxiety and your self-doubt and all that goes down. Testosterone goes up. You feel better. That's going to do the same thing for you chemically. It will. You'll just feel better.
All right.
So wait, no, I don't know. It's 2 minutes. It's long. 2 minutes is a long time. It's oddly, and so you know, there's these power positions. So before I go on stage, you know, you can see me backstage walking around like this. Yeah, for 2 minutes, and your arms get tired, and you break out in a little sweat. You do it, and that's what I do. You know, so I go out on stage feeling the most confident I can.
I think it's been right at about 2 minutes.
It's
about 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a long time. But no, I've definitely sensed that though. I mean, it forces that smile on your face. So I'll have to start trying that every day.
Do it for real. Yeah, it's great. Now sometimes I will go out on stage and I'll go, oh, shit, I didn't do it. And I start then thinking about it and getting psyched out. Yeah, it's funny. So, but yeah, we're all just so, we're like wet machines, and so things can always get better. And that's the thing that scares me about a lot of people. Like, suicide is so final, and The Veils of Veronica is about Aaron too, on that record. And they were both drunk when they did it.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't drinking. I'm pretty sure they'd still be here. And, and alcohol and drugs have taken a lot from me, and they took them. Not from me, they took them, but so that was a thing. And I didn't know where this record was going really, but then all of a sudden it just kind of, it was one of those things like, what in the world? Like, oh my God, what is going on? And I remember my brother calling me when he told me about Ryan, and then 2 days later it was Aaron, but he said, my brother called and said, my whole world's upside down.
Yeah.
And it was, and that was just the one kid. Then there was 2 days later. And when my sister called and said, Aaron just killed herself, I was like, no, it can't be, and so people are just desperate, and it's a scary time, man.
Seemingly is just day after day, now month after month of kind of, of bad news, and sort of, I guess, going back to the song, No Matter What, a little bit. I mean, what is as someone who has lived through a lot yourself, obviously, I mean, what advice is that your advice? Is the song your advice to all of us as we're going through COVID-19 and, a lot of civil unrest and protests and an administration that most of us can't understand their actions? Kind of what is your advice to those people?
I think, and I've heard this bandied about, but it's a pause button. But it is an amazing thing, because people are so outraged by stuff. It's back to that inflammation thing. People are just so friends bitching about they can't go to work. I'm like, dude, you fucking hate your job. What are you talking about? Like, you should be fucking watching TV. And then, but still, you hated the train ride. It was always packed. You never had a seat. You were there with the stinky guy next to you every fucking day. What is this life that we were so missing so much? Was everybody just idyllically happy, running around like in the fields? Like, no, everybody was fucking miserable. Right. What do you want to? Why are we rebuilding the Tower of Babel? You want to rebuild that? No, fucking burn it down. And it's an awakening's going on. That's what it is. It's the rub of people becoming awakened. And the system that doesn't work for them. Mm-hmm. And this is, it's on some level, it's like, burn it down. Right. Burn it down. We got to start over. It's broken. Yeah. We're trying to fix it. Don't fix it. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. But, tearing yourself down, tearing the constructs that we've created in our own lives. That's a good place to start. That's going back to the be the change, Right. And I've been taking this time to do things. I'm doing weirdo breathing now. I'm taking cold showers. I'm off sugar. And I'm trying to learn French, which is impossible. I take 1 day off my French lessons, all out the window. So I'm just doing whatever I can. I don't know, a little incremental change. Does it lead to great, does every journey begin with a single step? Yeah, I guess.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're making some positive steps.
I'm
trying to stay. Yeah, you're trying to stay sane, and I certainly appreciate those efforts. Let me circle back to the album one last time, and then I'll let you go and get back to your day. And what have you been doing? I mean, so since you got June 5th is when the album came out. I will mention again, great album, 12 songs. Everyone needs to buy it. I'll link to it. It's just this kind of helpless feeling. Like, I had these plans, I had this product, I had this thing I was going to promote. Yeah. And now here I am. So kind of how have you been dealing with that?
Yeah, I do online shows, but selling them at shows, that's where you sell records. Right. That's the only place to sell records. So you know, seeing the Spotify numbers jump is great. You know, that's no money in that. But so, yeah, it's just, you know, I've been chasing the dragon for a long time. And so I'm okay with things, you know. The music's out there talking to you is great. And, you know, I'm grateful for every little morsel I get out of this life. You know, I should be long be dead. And so every day is a gift to me. And so, you know, regardless of the inside thing we talked about, you know, it's a beautiful day here. I know you're in a stormy day, but so, you know, it's, I am an optimist, you know, as much as that chorus shouts that, but I think, you know, things aren't just going to mystically happen. Like we leave it up to the providence of the good Lord that things are going to get better. No, you know, hope is not a strategy. So, you know, but I do think, that we can forge forward and it, you know, it's so much of the things these constructs again are just ridiculous. Borders are just invisible lines, and there's no line there, you know. But the life that guy lives and the guy, me over here on this side of that line, very different.
Right.
It's all these shared fictions. They're not real. None of that's real.
Right.
And so, like, you know, and the color of the skin, it's not real.
Right.
It's based on the sun. You know, pigmentation, nothing different. You know,
yeah,
it's all just these fictional things we've been taught our whole lives. You know, you just got to be willing to admit that everything you know might be wrong.
Right.
I'm okay with that. The more I live, the more I know that I don't know shit.
Yeah. Well, and planning to talk to you today, I was thinking, because basically I just wear T-shirts all the time, and I was thinking, what T-shirt feels like it goes with Michael McDermott? So you can see I've got the John Imagine T-shirt on, which is very similar to what you're saying. You know, I think it's, you know, imagine no borders, imagine no religion, imagine all these things. Why do we have to have it? There you go. Exactly. Love will hold the world
together.
Together. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think love will hold the world together. You know, imagine, as you were just talking about, burn it down. Yeah, why do we have to have the system that we have? Let's rethink. Let's imagine something differently that would be beneficial for us all.
Yeah, and you know, the governor of Texas, you know, that he put everything back on lockdown and everything. Mm-hmm. I applaud him for that, but people yell at him like, "You fucking idiot!" No, what? Don't. The man realized he made a mistake. That's a good thing.
Right.
It's okay to admit you're wrong, man. I think it shows strength. It doesn't show weakness. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You know, like I was wrong. Oh, weak.
Yeah. Admit that you made the mistake and let's try to rectify it.
Yeah. And like, I applaud him. I totally applaud him for that. I mean, I wish we would have done it the first time, but whatever.
Right.
Hey, you know, so it's just like, everyone's got to give everybody a break.
Well, I'll let you go. I know that you've got some things to handle today. But Michael McDermott, What in the World is the single, and it's also the name of the album. It was released June 5th, so it's out everywhere. Listen to it on Spotify if you have to. He'll get his 1 cent in for that play, and then but I obviously buy the album, and I'll link to everything on your website as well. So. And check it out. It's been around for a long time, so people need to check out not only this album, but the 15 or so other albums that you've got in the past.
Yeah, and again, I applaud you and keep fighting the good fight. Getting your voice out there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Michael.